Is it okay?
Yeah, it's good.
We've already had many comments about your altar the last time we were here. Everybody's wowing about the altar. So we can see the altar. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, everyone. Dear devotees, welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, which I'm including Brhad Bhagavatamrta because Srila Prabhupada told us in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 5, verse 23, purport, you must read this book. That's coming right from Prabhupada's purport. So, and Gopiparanadhana Prabhu, the translator and translator of not only the verses, but the commentary of Sanatana Goswami on the Brhad Bhagavatamrta, it's called Digdarshani commentary, has never been translated into English before in over 450 years. No one has known Sanskrit well enough, English well enough, and the culture and the science of Krishna consciousness well enough to be able to translate these purports, these commentaries. So it's very, very special. I'm here in the live studios. I don't know how to describe this. I'm at the house of the family of Dr. Rao, whose name is Chakradhari, because he's an initiated disciple of one of my best friends, Radhanath Maharaj. And his loving wife and star of the show, Rajalakshmi, is also a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj. And they have two beautiful children, Hari Priya. She is in what grade? 10th grade. And Gauranga Madhava, who happens to be playing cricket with his friends right now, but what can you do? How old is he?
He's 10.
10, a 10-year-old, right? It's kind of like Gopakumar, He's going to go and do whatever he wants to do. Okay. But this family, I'm family with this family because I stayed with them for a month the last time I had my operation. And guess who is doing the operation? Yes, Chakradhari. And his brother is Srivats Thakur or Srivats Pandit. Srivats Pandit in the family or the community of my best friend, Vaisheshika Prabhu. And what can I say? Krishna makes these arrangements. It's amazing. You just get attached to hearing and chanting his books and in his movement, and Krishna makes all these wonderful, out-of-the-world arrangements. So here we are. We're reading the Brhad Bhagavatamrta 7th chapter. But before we do, we're going to recite the Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, also written by Sanatana Goswami, 5 verses glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the basis for all the other Rasa Shastras, especially Brhad Bhagavatamrta. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidwanduditaditya, Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya, Prema Varshak Shadayate, Sarvada Sarvasevyaya, Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful, to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka bando mat sangin, mad guro man mahadana, man nistadaga mad bhagya, mad ananda namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu, sadhu tadayin, atini chuchata kada, hanamun chagadachin mam, premna rit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Before I begin tonight's reading, I have to offer my humble obeisances to all the personalities of Godhead, and Srila Prabhupada and Haridas Thakur, and Srila Radhanath Maharaj, and all the previous acharyas. It's a stunning altar. It's becoming famous all over the world, actually, as it will become more famous, because we'll be here every night between now and 12th is the last one we'll have. 11th, sorry. The doctor just corrected me. The 11th. So I offer my humble obeisance to Jagannath Baladev and Srimati Subhadra, and to Shri Gaurnitai and Bal Gopal, and Krishna Balaram, and Vrindadevi, and Srila Prabhupada, and all the previous acharyas. Thank you for having us here, and for your pleasure, we're going to read the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. Hare Krishna. Okay, we're starting with text 123. This is called the Rasayan section of the Brhad Bhagavatamrta. The stories of Narada Muni going from place to find the best devotee, and Gopakumar going from place to place explaining to the Brahmana, his new disciple who Radharani sent him to give mercy to, the Brahmana from Mathura. And it culminates in the Brahmana from Mathura becoming full of love of God, as Gopakumar, who became Sarup when he finally reached Goloka-Vrindavan, demonstrates. And now Parikshit Maharaj, who's actually reading this or reciting this to his mother Uttara, has come to the end of those stories, and he can't stop because he's so ecstatic, explaining to his mother. His mother came to him after Shukadev Goswami had finished the reading and then left. He was there. There was a time between the time he left, heard the Bhagavatam, and the snake bird. So this is Parikshit Maharaj speaking to his mother through through Jaimini, who's speaking to Janamejaya in his court. So we're hearing now the gopis. We've heard so many things already in this beginning of this Rasayan section, but now we're hearing special verses from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describe the glories of the Brajavasis. And it's come to the gopis, who are the greatest devotees of Krishna, and they're now expressing their love for Krishna by comparing themselves to all the different residents of Vrindavan, starting from the clouds, and the rivers, and the mountains, and then the deer, and the birds, and finally they've come, then the cowherd boys. Now we're still in the cowherd boys. They're going to glorify the cowherd boys, and they're going to say, we're not good devotees. The cowherd boys are better devotees than we are. This is their mentality. Everyone else is a better devotee than we are. We wish we could become as good a devotees as all these other living beings in Vrindavan. Text 123, Chapter 7, Part 2, Brhad Bhagavatamrta. Sometimes Lord Krishna grew tired from fighting and lay down on the base of a tree, at the base of a tree, resting upon a bed made of soft twigs and buds, and using the lap of a cowherd friend as his pillow. Commentary. Text 123 through 125 are from Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 15, 16 through 18. Here, Shukadev Goswami describes some of the services the cowherd boys did for Krishna while he rested in the forest. These pastimes were a part of Krishna's Poganda Leela, of tending his cows in Sri Vrindavan forest. Krishna would enjoy lying down to rest at various times when fatigued after wrestling with his friends, for instance, and in various places, such as the cool, breezy shore of the Yamuna. To rest comfortably, he would choose the base of a kadamba, tamal, or other tree with ample shade. Anticipating Krishna's daily pastimes, the goddess Vrinda would have beds of leaves, flowers, and young soft twigs waiting at the bases of those trees. Or sometimes Krishna's Gopa friends would arrange this bedding when they arrived. Even though Krishna lay down on only one bed at a time, Srila Shukadev refers to the beds in the plural, either because many devotees were involved in making them, or simply out of respect for the paraphernalia of Krishna's pastimes, or else because the cowherd boys would compete to make several different beds, and Krishna would expand his universal form to please all the boys by simultaneously lying down on each bed, unseen by the makers of the others. Krishna would accept as his pillow the lap of one of his most intimate friend, most intimate friend, Srimati Radharani's brother, Sridama. Huh? He's smart. His best friend Sridama in Radharani's family. Huh? You got it. Text 124. Some of the cowherd boys, who were all great souls, free of all sin, would then massage his lotus feet, and others would expertly fan him. Commentary. When Krishna's cowherd friends, who loved him so much, saw that he was fatigued, many of them responded immediately, doing whatever they could to relieve his discomfort. In this flurry of activity, the boys were overcome by ever-increasing affection for him. Many boys would massage his legs, either one boy at a time in turns, or else all the boys massaging various places at once. It may also be that to please his beloved friends, who all wanted to serve him in this way, the Supreme Lord manifested his all-pervasive form, without leaving aside his form as the son of Sri Nanda, and allowed a huge crowd of cowherd boys to massage his feet simultaneously, each unseen by the others. Thus, Krishna displayed his supreme powers even in his childhood pastimes, as expressed in the later verse of the Bhagavatam, 10:15-19, by the words Isha Cheshtitaha, exhibiting feats only God can perform. With this in mind, instead of taking the word Mahatmanaha in this verse to refer to Krishna's friends, we can take it as referring to Krishna, the Supreme Soul. In these pastimes, Krishna demonstrates the greatness of the Supreme Being, even more convincingly than in God's typical activities like creation. In these childhood pastimes, Krishna shows his power to enchant the entire world with his sweetness. Shukadev Goswami speaks of Krishna's friends as Hatapapmana, persons who have had their sins destroyed. For ordinary, pious persons, whatever contradicts the principles of religion is sin. But for devotees of the Supreme Lord, sin is anything that obstructs pure devotional service. And that is the sense that applies here. The cowherd boys of Braja have not the slightest inclination to do anything that does not please Krishna. Krishna himself is also called Hata Papmana in the sense that he destroys the sins of all the worlds by displaying his glories for everyone to hear and chant. Text 125. My dear king, other boys would sing songs appropriate to the occasion that could enchant Krishna, and the hearts of the boys would melt out of love for him. Commentary. Some of Krishna's friends sang songs with sweet, gentle melodies, just right for his nap time. This encouraged him to fall asleep quickly. Krishna is the most exalted of persons, graver than the combined depth of millions of oceans. But these songs fascinated him because they described his loving dealings with the gopis. And his mind was strongly attracted even to the parts of those songs that merely glorified his devotional service in general ways. It may be that here Shukadev Goswami uses the word Mahatmana ironically. Unable to control his ecstasy, Shukadev calls Krishna a great soul, with the understanding that Krishna is actually the prince of womanizers who shamelessly indulges his lusty propensities by stealing the clothes of the cowherd's daughters, making them appear naked before him. The songs sung by Krishna's friends for his pleasure inspired intensified prema, which melted the boys' hearts. They sang softly, their voices choked with tears of ecstasy. From this we can know that even though pure love for Krishna arises in the course of all kinds of devotional service, it appears most quickly and fully when one performs Sankirtan, by singing songs dear to Krishna and otherwise glorifying his name and fame. As stated in the previous verse, the boys who served Krishna while he rested were Hata Papmana, free from all sin. They were great souls, extremely advanced in devotional service. Each were capable of purifying the entire universe. Thus, as they performed their individual services for Krishna, they felt more and more love for him, and their hearts melted in ecstasy. And again, the word Mahatmana applies equally well to both Krishna and his friends. In this verse, Srila Shukadev addresses King Parikshit as Maharaj. This may mean that the pastime of Krishna is being served in royal style is fit to be heard by a king. Or it may imply that kings like Parikshit Maharaj can hardly expect such luxurious comforts. Or, describing to Parikshit the supreme fortune of the cowherd boys creates an upsurge of loving feelings in Sri Shukadev's heart that makes him address Parikshit as Maharaja to attract the attention of the king, who was also overwhelmed by the bewilderment of pure prema. Or, Shukadev calls Parikshit Maharaj the best of the royal class because only King Parikshit is competent to understand the sublime good fortune of these cowherd boys. Or else, this is Sanatana Goswami's specialty. He can see so many varieties of realizations in the same thing. Or else, the term may indicate that the fondness cherished by the cowherd boys for Krishna is supremely splendid. It is the Maharaja of loving sentiments. Although this sneha, or love, is always present within the boys, in this setting of intimate service, it now rises to the peak of its potency. It radiates with infinite brilliance, leaving all contamination far behind. Text 126. O learned Brahmana, Mother Yashoda's breast milk was sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What past auspicious activities did she and Nanda Maharaj perform to thus achieve such perfection in ecstatic love? Commentary. Texts 126 through 130 are dedicated to the supreme glories of Goparaj Nanda and his wife, Sri Yashoda. After Shukadev explains to Parikshit Maharaj the special way Krishna favored Mother Yashoda, Parikshit speaks the current verse, Bhagavatam 10:8-46, by showing the universal form and by displaying other exceptional pastimes. Krishna made himself known to all the Brajbasis as the Supreme Lord, but then, to show his most extreme mercy, especially to his mother, he again covered her consciousness with his unique potency, so that she could not think of him so that she could think of him as only as her son. Thus, Krishna made the highest degree of pure affection pervade his mother's mind and all her senses. Parikshit addresses the son of Badarayana, Vyasa, with the word Brahman, O direct embodiment of the Supreme Absolute Truth, because Parikshit is asking a question that only the Lord himself can answer. What special pious acts could Nanda and Yashoda have done to achieve such a blessed state, unattainable in this material world? The devotional success of Nanda and Yashoda is Mahodayam, the greatest perfection, unequaled by other devotees, including Vasudeva and Devaki. In the very next Bhagavatam verse, 10:8-47, Sri Parikshit states, although Krishna was so pleased with Vasudeva and Devaki that he descended as their son, they could not enjoy Krishna's magnanimous childhood pastimes, which are so great that simply chanting about them vanquishes the contamination of the material world. Vasudeva and Devaki were Krishna's true parents, but they were less fortunate than Nanda and Yashoda, who witnessed Krishna's childhood pastimes, in which he generously bestowed upon the world sense enjoyment, liberation, devotional service, and ecstatic love. Gayantyajapi kavaya. Even today, in the Kali Yuga, great poets like Brahma and Vyasadeva sing about these pastimes because this is the means for uprooting all the evils of the modern age. Without glorifying Krishna's pastimes, no one can eradicate the faults of Kali Yuga. Shall I repeat that? Oh, all right. Without glorifying Krishna's pastimes, no one can eradicate the faults of Kali Yuga. Pure devotees have always chanted these glories of Krishna and continue to do so up to the present day. The phrase Loka Shama Lapaham can be explained in several ways. One is that this glorification or sankirtan removes apaha, the misery, shamala, of all living beings. Or, taking shama to mean peace of mind, lapa to mean speech, and ha to mean killing, another explanation is that by engaging in this hearing and chanting, one develops the highest quality of prema, which in turns disturbs the equilibrium of the mind and makes the faculty of speech and brings the faculty of speech to a complete halt. Or reading shama as well-being and lapa as discussion. Another idea is that engaging in sankirtan transforms the attitude of all who take part, leaving no scope for further discussion of impersonal self-contentment. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-21 through 45 describes some of the wonderful pranks the infinite Krishna shared with Nanda and Yashoda by his special mercy. Were it not for this unprecedented mercy, Mother Yashoda would be on the same level as Devaki, who also fed Krishna with her breast milk. Later in the 10th canto, Bhagavatam 10:85-55, while narrating how Krishna recovered his dead elder brothers, Shukadeva says, by drinking Devaki's nectarian milk, the remnants of what Krishna himself had drunk, the 6 sons touched the transcendental body of the Lord, Narayana, and this contact awakened them to their original identities. This verse confirms that Krishna once drank from Devaki's breast. Right after Krishna's birth, in Kamsa's prison, Devaki begged four-armed Krishna to become an ordinary baby. And at that time, he must have sat in her lap for at least a few minutes and drunk from her breast. Later, too, when Brahma stole Krishna's calves and friends, Krishna took on their forms and drank the milk of all their mothers. Therefore, in the verse quoted as the present text of Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta, Parikshit takes care to distinguish Yashoda's special good fortune from that of Krishna's other mothers. It is for this reason that he uses the word evam, thus. Parikshit here calls Krishna by the name Hari, indicating that by the motherly love Krishna kindled in Yashoda through his childhood leelas, he constantly stole her mind. And by speaking of her as Mahabhaga, Parikshit implies that she is even more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj. It is common knowledge that children are more strongly bound by affection to their mothers than to their fathers. This general truth applies to Krishna also, as shown in the 10th canto of the scriptures. as shown in the 10th canto, by the descriptions of Krishna's infant behavior, especially in the pastime of his being tied up with rope. We will hear some of these descriptions in the verses recited next by King Parikshit. Although Vasudeva and Devaki worshipped Krishna with devotion for the duration of 4 yugas and underwent severe austerities to gain him as their son, they could not achieve a trace of the blessings Krishna showered upon Nanda and Yashoda. Vasudeva and Devaki could not directly enjoy Krishna's pastimes of crawling about and otherwise acting as an infant. Pastimes great poets, headed by Sri Brahma, praised in song. Hare Krishna. Text 127. Thereafter, O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Bharats, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead became the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they attained perfectly fixed devotional love for him. And so also did all the other inhabitants of Vrindavan, the Gopas and Gopis. Commentary. To explain why Nanda and Yashoda were able to drink so fully from the nectar ocean of Sri Krishna's all-auspicious childhood pastimes, Shukadeva Goswami answered the question from Parikshit Maharaj by recounting how in a previous birth Nanda and Yashoda were blessed by Lord Brahma to achieve the highest devotion for Krishna. In this verse, Bhagavatam 10.8.51, Shukadeva concludes that description. Because Brahma is a first-class devotee, by his benediction, Nanda and Yashoda developed perfect love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardhan, the annihilator of demons and other wicked persons. And the Lord assumed the role of their son. Krishna is also called Janardhana because all people, jana, hanker with ardor, ardanti, to achieve from him what they imagine to be important in life. Nanda and Yashoda, who considered Krishna alone important, were able to obtain him as their son. Here, the grammatical form of the expression putri bhute indicates something that has become what it wasn't before. I'll read that again. Here, the grammatical form of the expression putri bhute indicates something that has become what it wasn't before. He who is the Supreme Truth, Supreme Soul, and Supreme Lord cannot be the born son of anyone. Yet because he understood that the highest mode of devotion to him cannot develop unless he becomes the son of his devotees, he became the child of Nanda and Yashoda. By doing this, he displayed his super excellent qualities, especially his selfless concern for his devotees. This is considered by our acharyas to be the highest exposition of Krishna's opulence, his selfless concern for his devotees. That's his greatest opulence. By Brahma's benediction, the devotion of Nanda and Yashoda became irrevocably fixed. Nitaram asit. All the Gopas and Gopis of Braja have great love for Krishna, but the love shown by Nanda and Yashoda is greater than that of everyone else, or at least in the context of Krishna's early childhood. Later, of course, when Krishna reaches the Poganda age, and especially the Kaishora age, the ultimate form of love for him becomes revealed in the young gopis. The gopis' Madhurya Ras, the most precious of all devotional jewels, begins manifesting itself slightly even during Krishna's Balya years. As Parikshit Maharaj continues reciting verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, he gradually comes to this point of realization, in particular when he speaks the verses describing Uddhava's visit to Vrindavan. In the present verse, Sri Shukadev addresses Parikshit as a descendant of the eminent Bharat dynasty, implying that Parikshit himself should now be able to answer his own question as to how Nanda and Yashoda attained the perfection of having Krishna as their son. The answer to that question is as follows. In a previous life, Sri Devaki and Vasudeva worshipped the Supreme Lord with the desire to obtain a son like him. The Lord bestowed upon them, that specific blessing by pledging to become their son in 3 births. Sri Nanda and Yashoda, however, prayed to render the best devotional service to Krishna, and it was Brahma who rewarded the fulfillment of their prayer. Thus, the personality of Godhead demonstrated that a benediction from his devotee is more valuable than one directly from him. By descending to earth in Vrajabhumi, Krishna expanded his supremely attractive childhood pastimes for the benefit of his parents, Nanda and Yashoda, and for the benefit of everyone related to them. The ecstatic devotion for Krishna, those pastimes evoked, eclipses the importance of the 4 great goals of life. Nanda and the other Brajavasis are Krishna's eternal companions and most dear devotees. They only seem to obtain devotion for Krishna by Brahma's blessing, just as Krishna only apparently obtains Samba as his son by the blessing of Sri Rudra. The address of O Bharat also implies that Parikshit Maharaj should already be aware of this. Text 128. O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Kurus, Nanda Maharaj was very liberal and simple. On returning home from his trip, he at once took his son Krishna on his lap, and by formally smelling Krishna's head, he undoubtedly enjoyed transcendental bliss. Commentary. Vasudeva may also be able to claim Krishna as his son, but Nanda has an even greater right to consider Krishna Swaputra, his own son. This verse, Bhagavatam 10.6.43, tells of Nanda Maharaja's special glories. After Nanda paid taxes to Kamsa and returned home from Madhupuri, he discovered that Krishna had killed the demoness Putana. Nanda was overjoyed to see his son alive and safe from near calamity. Though the Vrajavasis, astonished to see the great Rakshasi killed by Krishna, couldn't help but wonder what kind of powerful being Krishna really was. This heightened awareness of Krishna's greatness did not at all undermine Nanda Maharaja's firm conviction that Krishna was nothing more or less than his own dependent son. His affection for Krishna was too pure to be weakened by any distraction. When Nanda arrived home, he met Krishna, took him on his lap, and embraced him with enthusiasm. In ecstasy, Nanda smelled the hair on his son's head and felt the highest limit of happiness, paramang mudam. Or, if we split the first of these words as para mam, the happiness Nanda felt at that moment was greater than the joy felt by the goddess Lakshmi, Ma, when she serves her Lord. Nanda Maharaj deserves such pleasure because he is Udaradi, a very saintly and generous devotee. On the occasion of Krishna's name-giving ceremony, for example, he gave away vast amounts of charity. The word Udaradihi also means that he is very intelligent. After all, didn't he disregard all other possible benedictions and asked Brahma only for the boon of exclusive devotion for Krishna? One might question why this verse singles out the good fortune of Nanda Maharaj, since Mother Yashoda had also prayed for devotion to Krishna and had shared equally in Lord Brahma's blessing. In a previous life, as Drona and Dara, Nanda and Yashoda had requested Brahma, "Please permit us to be born on the planet Earth, so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller and Master of all planets, will appear also and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life." Thus, those born in this material world may very easily be delivered from the miserable condition of materialistic life by accepting devotional service. Bhagavatam 10:8-49. Since both Nanda and Yashoda in a previous life had together offered the same prayer, shouldn't they both have the same ecstasy? The verse above from Brhad Bhagavatamrta highlights the ecstasy shown by Nanda Maharaj after the killing of Putana. But wasn't Mother Yashoda's ecstasy just like his? Or since a mother normally loves her son even more than the child's father shouldn't her love have been even greater than his? Yes, although Nanda and Yashoda both have extraordinary love for Krishna, her love for Krishna is greater. The special ecstasy shown here by Nanda Maharaj was occasioned by special circumstances. Nanda had just returned from an extended trip to Mathura city. Upon coming home from a distant journey, one only naturally feels special love for dear ones he has not seen for some time, and feels extra eagerness and happiness. Sri Yashoda always felt that high level of ecstatic affection. Actually, the love of great devotees of the Lord, like Nanda and Yashoda, is always fully developed to its ultimate limit. It can never diminish or increase. Thus, the constant love Nanda Maharaj has for Krishna could not have changed into something new on his return from Mathura. Only in imitation of ordinary family relationships does it appear to have changed. Or, looking at this in a different way, the rare treasure of pure prema constantly gives rise to all varieties of enduring emotions, perceived as newer and newer at every moment. This distinguishes the ecstasy of prema from the joy of mere liberation. Nanda Maharaj's apparent momentary increase in love for his son was simply a special ecstasy occasioned by the circumstance of his coming home. Hare Krishna. And that's it for the reading tonight. We went a little over. It's 4:08, almost 4:10. Almost 8:10. Because we started late. Okay. Now, if anything that you heard stuck out in your mind, then we please ask you to reflect on it for the benefit of everyone, or comment, or discuss, or whatever you want to do. Hare Krishna. Jai.
From
Rajalakshmi, do you have something?
The commentary, yes Maharaj, in the commentary for... Thank you Maharaj. In the commentary for verse 127, the sentences that says that the personality of Godhead demonstrates that a benediction from his devotee is more valuable than one directly from him. And we are experiencing that by having you at our home, Maharaj.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you so much, Maharaj.
Wait.
Hari Hari. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Anyway, thank you for that. I am myself overwhelmed by being here again. After all this time, it's very, very nice. It's very special.
From Sudevi Dasi.
Sudevi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for all this time you spent with us sharing this incredible description of where we all belong and how you take us there by hearing.
Hare Krishna. I'm just a peon, just delivering the mail. Gopiparanadhana Prabhu, Jayadvaita Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, they're delivering the goods. I'm just the peon.
From Gopakanya Devidasi.
Jai Gopakanya Devidasi, Hare Krishna.
Jai Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Seems that you are in Dwarka from Vrindavan. Very opulent, beautiful temple near you. Hare Krishna to all the fortunate devotees around you, especially the family members who are hosting you there and taking care. Only the fortunate ones get this rare opportunity to serve pure devotee like you in this pandemic time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and his ISKCON and your transcendental daily reading of Sri Brhad Bhagavatamrta.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Yes, I mean, it's a fact that Prabhupada once said that he built a house that the whole world can live in. And it's really true. I mean, the whole world is not trying to live in it, but, you know, as time goes on, more and more people will realize that they actually can live in a family that is deeper and richer than just one individual family. The reason why we feel so special here is that the family members here feel the spiritual familyhood of all the devotees of Srila Prabhupada in this movement. So therefore, it just increases where Prabhupada has created places, both in temples and in homes. Who can say that this temple is not a home? Who can say it? Who can even think it when they come into this temple room and look at the deities and how beautifully they're dressed and the ecstasy that's coming from them? When we're in our little room in Hythe, we have that little altar that we take care of, and you've seen it sometime in the picture. It's beautiful, actually, but compared to this, it's like just a little thing. But we get nectar from it, you know, by reading in front and by cleaning every day, making offerings every day, chanting in front and hearing in front. So this is the nature of devotional service. It is nectar from beginning to end, from top to bottom. There is no real higher or lower in the spiritual world. There's different varieties of transcendental loving ecstasy for Krishna and for one another. And that's what we're hearing about here. All the different personalities in Krishna's pastimes and how they love Krishna and one another, but especially Krishna. You know, even the ladies who have sons, they love Krishna more. This is just the opposite of the material world. You have a son, you love him at the exclusion of everyone. Although you may have a general love or affection for children in general. Who doesn't like children? I mean, everybody except a pervert or a crazy man. But yeah, you get the picture. In the spiritual world, there is no higher or lower. There's different degrees of ecstasy of love. That's it. Hare Krishna.
From Anandamurti Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Anandamurti.
Jai Gurudev.
She's from Japan.
Jai Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for today's reading. I thank you, Dr. Prabhu, to take care of Gurudev's surgery. Today my mind is very much satisfied to hear those childhood pastime of Krishna with Nanda Yashoda and loving his friends.
I would like to elaborate on one point on this issue. We heard how Nanda and Yashoda and Vasudeva and Devaki had previous births, and how they got benedictions from Brahma and others to take births, to have Krishna as their son. So this is a very deep subject, because Nanda and Yashoda are eternally the parents of Krishna. There's not more than one Nanda and Yashoda. Neither Devaki and Vasudeva. So the explanation is this. Put on your thinking caps. Just like Krishna expands himself into different expansions and incarnations and deities all over the universe, so the special residents and family members of Krishna, who are not jiva souls, they're expansions of Krishna, they have the power to expand themselves. So the truth is that the parents in the heavenly planets are Dara, Drona and Dara. They are expansions of Yashoda and of Nanda and Yashoda. Yes. And the other was Sutapa and what's the... Huh? Prishniga, Sutapa and Prishni? No. Anyway, I can't remember the names, but anyway, they're expansions of Devaki and Vasudeva. And when Yashoda and Nanda and Yashoda come, when Krishna comes to the earth, they come as the original form. And those other forms that prayed, to Brahma to be, they are expansions of them, and they merge into that original form. So we shouldn't think that that Nanda and Yashoda was somebody else before. They were Nanda and Yashoda expanded as demigods, and then they merged into, just like when Krishna comes, all of the expansions of Krishna come inside himself. They're all included in Krishna's form. So like that, when Nanda and Yashoda come, and some of the most intimate, coward boys even, and gopis, when they come, the original forms are there, and they, all the other expansions that they were in order to please Krishna in other places, in other relationships, they merge into those original forms. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's 8:17, so we're going to stop today. We thank you so much, everyone, for your comments and realizations and reflections. And Hare Krishna. Brhad Bhagavatamrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So we'll see you tomorrow night, same time, same place, here in this wonderful temple of this wonderful family, devotees of Krishna. Same subject, the creme de la creme, de la creme de la creme. Hare Krishna.